In the year 2487, the stars were no longer just distant lights in the night sky. They were places humans had touched. But Earth was quiet now, too quiet for most of the galaxy to notice. After centuries of war and chaos, humanity had vanished from the stage, retreating into silence. While alien empires argued and traded and fought among themselves, Earth rebuilt, studied, and prepared. Far from Earth, on the edge of the Andromeda expanse, a single warship drifted silently through space. It was the HSS Revenant, a ship unlike anything the galaxy had seen. No visible engines burned, no sound followed it. Its black, layered hull blended perfectly with the stars, and its energy signature was nearly undetectable. It was a ghost, floating through the void. Captain Mira Chen stood on the bridge, watching the data streams scroll across her screen. She was 34, with sharp eyes and steady hands. She spoke little, but when she did, her words carried weight. Her crew respected her not because she was loud or forceful, but because she was always one step ahead. "Status?" she asked quietly. "Cloak stable. No sign we've been detected," replied Lieutenant Rafe, her second in command. They had been shadowing a small alien fleet near a neutral trade route. The ships belonged to the Drax Dominion, one of the most powerful members of the Galactic Council, tall insectoid beings with hive-like governments and a history of conquering weaker planets. They viewed humans as primitive and barely worth noticing. That suited Mira just fine. "Our mission is observation only," she reminded her crew. "No engagement, no contact. Watch, record, report." The crew nodded, focused. Everyone knew the stakes. Humanity's reappearance in the galactic scene had to be handled carefully. Too much force, and they'd provoke a war. Too little, and they'd be ignored, or worse, targeted. Back in the Council's core systems, few even remembered Earth. The records were old. Humans had been written off as reckless, unstable, and technologically behind. What they didn't know was that Earth's silence had been deliberate. Behind the quiet, behind the black veil of space, humanity had built a defense force that could rival the greatest fleets in the galaxy. The Revenant was proof of that. Mira sipped her recycled coffee, her eyes never leaving the display. She watched the alien fleet perform its standard patrol, noting their formation, their energy output, and their weak points. The ship's AI, call sign Oracle, processed everything and stored it deep within secure files. Hours passed in silence. The ship glided through darkness like a shadow, invisible and patient. Then, something changed. "Power spike," said Rafe, alarmed. "One of their scout ships just surged. Unknown cause. Did they see us?" "Unknown." Mira didn't move. She stared at the screen. For just a second, the scout ship turned in their direction. A tiny green light on the console blinked red. "Cloak flicker." Just for a moment, the tech officer said. No one spoke. Every breath was held. Then nothing. The alien ship turned back. The patrol continued. Mira exhaled. "We hold position," she ordered. "Maintain silence." But deep down she knew something had changed. A moment was all it took. One glimpse, 1 second of exposure. And if the Drax ship had seen even a fragment of the Revenant, its size, its shape, its weapons, it might be enough to stir fear. Not yet a war, but fear. And fear spreads. Mira looked out into space. The stars stared back, cold and silent. "Keep watching," she said softly. The Draxian scout ship, named Sorvar, was a small, agile vessel designed for patrol and surveillance. It was one of many that circled the Andromeda expanse, monitoring trade routes, pirate movements, and anything the Drax considered a threat. Its crew of 6 insectoid officers followed strict procedures. Everything was logged, measured, and reported. They did not expect surprises. That changed when a surge ran through their primary sensor array. Inside that Sorvar, alarms buzzed in rhythmic pulses. The lead navigator, a tall Drax named Yarex, tapped a spindly claw against the console. "Energy surge, unknown origin," he reported to command. Brief, but unusual. "Pulse from forward sector." The pilot turned the ship toward the coordinates. What they saw next lasted no more than 5 seconds, but it would ripple through the galaxy like a silent explosion. Out of the darkness appeared a shape. It wasn't glowing or burning, but it had form solid, enormous and strange. The sensors couldn't make sense of it. Hull material unknown, weapons systems unreadable. No life signs, yet structure indicated life support systems were active. Before they could capture a full scan, the object vanished. Not jumped to light speed, not cloaked, just gone. The crew of the Tsorvar sat in stunned silence. Yarex blinked rapidly, his mind racing. He downloaded the partial sensor data and locked it behind encryption. Then he sent a single alert code back to the Dominion's nearest command post. Unidentified warship detected. Potential threat. Aboard the HSS Revenant, Captain Mira Chen stood perfectly still. Oracle, the ship's AI, had already calculated the odds. The scout had seen them. Not for long, but enough. What data did they capture? She asked. Visual outline, partial energy profile. No communication logs, no internal scan. Oracle replied in a calm, artificial voice. They will be confused, but afraid. Mira knew this was the risk. Cloaking was never perfect. Out here, in deep space, even a flicker could change everything. She turned to her crew. We send a message. Short. Clean. Let them know we chose not to act. Lieutenant Rafe looked at her. That might scare them more. I know, she said. But silence might scare them worse. She typed the message herself. Observe but do not engage. No name, no coordinates. Just a sentence, carried on a tight beam directed at the Tsorvar. The alien ship received it seconds later. The crew froze. Yarex read the message aloud. The translation cold and clear. Is it a warning? One asked. Or a challenge? Another added. Yarex didn't answer. He knew one thing. The ship they had seen was human. The design, the language, the silence, it all pointed to Earth. But Earth was supposed to be quiet, primitive. He locked the message and the sensor footage behind multiple codes, then sent a high-priority alert to the Dominion's Central Fleet Command. A warship had appeared and disappeared without a trace. It didn't fire, it didn't speak, until it did. And when it spoke, it wasn't a threat. It was something worse. It was a reminder. Back on the Revenant, Mira sat alone in her quarters. She stared at the stars outside her window. The silence felt heavier now. She knew how alien minds worked. Some would panic, some would deny, and some would prepare for the worst. We didn't attack, she whispered. We just let them see. To the Drax Dominion, that glimpse would grow into stories. Those stories would grow into rumors, and those rumors would spread, fast. She had hoped to remain hidden longer, but now the galaxy had seen a piece of what Earth had become. A glimpse was all it took, and fear, real fear, had just begun. High Consul Vorik stood in the central chamber of the Drax Dominion's war citadel, deep in the fortress moon orbiting Tauvan Prime. The hall was carved from black stone, lined with pillars of glowing crystal that pulsed like veins. Around him, holograms flickered to life, tall, elegant figures of other alien leaders from the Galactic Council, some insectoid, some scaled, some translucent beings made of light. They had all gathered after receiving a single disturbing report. The message from the Tsorvar had reached every major council member. An unknown vessel, likely human, had revealed itself near the Andromeda expanse. The footage was brief, incomplete and blurred, but it was enough to stir fear. Its shape was clearly war-designed, its size massive. Its energy signature didn't match any known species. And then there was the message. Observe, but do not engage. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't diplomacy. It was something in between. That made it worse. Human activity has been dormant for over a century, said the Ilari speaker, a floating creature with shifting lights for a face. We believed they had regressed. Vorix's voice rumbled like thunder. They did not regress. They vanished. There is a difference. He paced slowly across the chamber, his long armored legs clicking on the stone. We thought them too chaotic to survive their own wars. But they were hiding, preparing. The hologram of Chancellor Raren, a tall reptilian from the Yakari Union, flickered in. Or perhaps this is a rogue ship, a lone vessel acting without government orders. Vorex turned to him. And if it isn't, what if there are hundreds more like it, cloaked and watching us right now? Silence followed. Fear had begun to spread, not because humans had attacked, but because they had not. They had revealed just enough to be seen, and then disappeared without firing a shot. That kind of move wasn't reckless. It was planned. Back in the human-controlled sector, HSS Revenant remained hidden. Captain Mira Chen watched from afar as encrypted council signals flew across space. Oracle had tapped into their outer layer chatter, fragments of panicked debate, urgent analysis, and emergency fleet adjustments. "They're scared," said Lieutenant Rafe, reading the translated comms. "Draxian ships are pulling back from the neutral zone. Some smaller factions are demanding protection. They think we're preparing for war," Mira replied. "We're not," Rafe said. "That doesn't matter," she said softly. Mira leaned back in her command chair, arms folded. She had hoped for more time, more silence. But that one moment, that single flicker in the cloak, had set something in motion. Now the galaxy remembered humanity, and what it once feared might be returning stronger than ever. Vorex, in his council chamber, stared into the grainy footage. The image of the Revenant filled his vision. The hull had no clear markings, no lights, just rows of sealed panels and strange shifting plating. Its design was cold, precise, and unfamiliar. He tapped a claw against the console. Behind his hard eyes he remembered the stories of Earth, a species born from war, fiercely intelligent, stubborn, emotional. Their last known war had nearly destroyed them. After that, they went silent. For over 100 years, not a single ship left Sol. The Council had moved on, assuming Earth had crumbled. Now this ship had appeared on the edge of known space, without a flag, without permission, and with power none of them understood. "Begin fleet expansion," Vorex ordered. "New stealth detectors, long-range rail platforms. I want every outpost on high alert." But High Consul, one of his aides, protested. "We have no proof of aggression. We have something worse," Vorex growled. "We have the unknown." Fear didn't need proof, just the right amount of mystery. On the Revenant, Mira stood alone on the observation deck. The stars stretched forever in front of her, cold, quiet, waiting. "They're whispering about us now," she said to herself. Let them. She wasn't angry. She wasn't eager for war. But she knew the power of fear. And if a whisper could make the giants of the galaxy nervous, then perhaps Earth had already won its first battle, without a single shot. The outer rim of the Sol system looked empty from the outside. Silent, cold. For most of the galaxy, Earth's home was forgotten space. Too quiet, too unimportant, a relic of a civilization that had burned itself out long ago. But as the Galactic Council sent its scout ships closer, they began to feel that something wasn't right. The first probe reached Neptune's orbit. Its scans returned static. No objects detected, no energy readings. The probe turned toward the sun, and instantly its signal vanished. The second scout ship made it farther. It passed Pluto and received what appeared to be natural interference, solar wind, magnetic spikes, and black radio zones. But their scientists couldn't explain the strange energy shadows that danced in the sensor logs. The patterns didn't match any known natural effect. They were too clean, too deliberate. Within a day, the scout went dark. High Consul Vorex sat in silence as the reports came in. The Council's attempts to observe Earth had failed. Their ships hadn't been destroyed, but something had blinded them. Something quiet, intelligent, and precise. He stared at the star map floating in front of him. A red circle glowed around Sol. Every ship sent near it disappeared from sensors. Vorex knew it wasn't a trap. It was a message. Stay out. Across the galaxy, rumors grew. On mining colonies, alien traders whispered of a ghost fleet near Earth. On data stations, black market feeds claimed Earth had built a shield powerful enough to bend light. No proof existed, just fear, and fear was enough. Meanwhile, the HSS Revenant drifted silently near the expanse, still cloaked, still watching. Mira Chen stood on the bridge, arms crossed as her crew replayed the latest intercepted signals. "Council's in chaos," said Rafe. "Some want to speak with us, others want to arm up." Mira nodded. "And what about the pirates? They've been sniffing around trade lanes. Thought the council was distracted. We tracked one heading toward a supply convoy." Rafe paused. "Orders." Mira didn't speak for a moment. Then she turned to the weapons officer. "One clean shot. No damage to life support. Let them know we're watching." Minutes later, in the vastness of space, a pirate cruiser approached a peaceful merchant ship. It powered its weapons and closed in. Then, out of nowhere, a beam of energy sliced across the darkness, fast, silent, and exact. It didn't explode. It didn't destroy. It simply disabled the ship's systems. The pirate vessel drifted, powerless and confused. No one saw where the shot came from. No one even saw the ship that fired it. But the message was clear. Aboard the Revenant, Mira watched the footage. "Send them a message," she said. "Encrypted, untraceable, short." Rafe nodded. The message read, "This was a warning. Humanity protects its own." The merchant ship was unharmed. The pirate crew floated helpless in the dark, now prisoners of their own ship. When the council heard of it, they couldn't ignore what it meant. Humanity was not just hiding, it was watching, quietly, patiently, with weapons that could strike without being seen. That night, in the Citadel, Vorex watched the pirate incident footage. His claws tapped slowly on the arm of his chair. "Still no confirmed source of the shot?" he asked. "None, High Consul. But the pirate vessel reports a single message. Human origin." He said nothing for a long time. Then he stood. "Send word to the inner fleet. Begin shadow deployments along the border. Quietly. No council votes. No noise. Let the others talk. We will prepare." In another part of space, the council held a private session. Some wanted peace talks. Others wanted war. But no one, absolutely no one, dared to act without knowing exactly what humanity had become. Back on the Revenant, Mira stared out at the stars. "They're choosing sides now," she said. "That's good. What do we do next?" Rafe asked. "We wait," Mira replied. "And we listen." The stars outside remained cold and quiet. But the galaxy had changed, and the silence wasn't empty anymore. The Galactic Council was breaking apart, not in name but in spirit. Fear had settled into the halls where pride once ruled. In the heart of the capital station, orbiting the gas giant Veltan, delegates from every major faction gathered for an emergency session. The chamber, once full of ceremony and tradition, now echoed with anxious voices and uncertain eyes. At the center stood High Consul Vorex. His posture was still proud, but the tension in his movements betrayed the storm inside him. The flickering holograms of other leaders surrounded him like ghosts. "This is not a misunderstanding," he said, his deep voice rolling across the chamber. "This is calculated, controlled. The humans are testing us." "They haven't attacked," replied Chancellor Yeren of the Yekari Union. "They've made no demands, no threats. We are reacting to shadows, shadows with precision weapons," Vorex snapped. "Shadows that can disable a cruiser from across a star system without revealing themselves." From the far end of the chamber, the Ilari speaker floated forward, her body glowing in calm pulses. "Perhaps they do not seek war. Perhaps they seek to avoid it by showing what they are capable of. A quiet warning, not a challenge." "That's worse," Vorex growled. "It means they are confident. It means they think we will be too afraid to act." The council fell into silence. Meanwhile, across the stars, the HSS Revenant maintained its silent watch. Hidden, cloaked, observing. Captain Mira Chen sat in the strategy room with her command staff. A three-dimensional display of council-controlled space spun slowly above the table. "They're splitting," Rafe said, tapping at the regions that glowed red and blue. "Some systems are aligning with Vorex. Others are hesitating. A few want to talk." "They won't come to a decision," Mira replied. "Not while they're afraid of making the wrong move." "And us?" asked Lieutenant Imani, the communications officer. "Do we speak?" Mira looked at the glowing map, her eyes steady. "Not yet. Let them argue. Every second they doubt us, every moment they fear our silence, we gain ground. She wasn't celebrating, she didn't smile. This wasn't about winning a war, it was about surviving one that hadn't started yet. In private, Mira reviewed old Earth history, wars from before space travel. She studied moments when power shifted, not by armies, but by ideas. When a single image, a word or a silence, had turned the tide of nations. She understood what the Council was feeling now. Not threat, not rage. Something deeper, something that made leaders look over their shoulders at night. Uncertainty. Back on Veltan Station, Vorex met with his own advisors in a sealed chamber. They hesitate because they believe they can still control the humans through diplomacy, he said. They're fools. A species that survived their own destruction and came back stronger does not beg for peace. They wait for weakness. What will you do? Asked one of his generals. We prepare our fleets. Quietly, hidden. We let the diplomats argue while we ready the hammer. When they've wasted their time on words, we will have power. In secret, Vorex began rerouting resources. Shipyards received classified orders. New long-range weapons were tested. Cloak detectors were rushed into development. The Drax Dominion would not be caught unprepared, and yet, even as he prepared for conflict, Vorex could not shake one thing, the message. Observe, but do not engage. Not an insult, not even a command. It had no arrogance, just certainty. He hated how calm it was. On the Revenant, Mira listened to the Council's fragmented signals. Oracle filtered out the noise and presented summaries, splits, debates, nervous gestures dressed as policy. They want us to make the next move, Oracle said. We already did, Mira replied. We let them see, Rafe leaned forward. And what if they fire first? Mira didn't answer immediately. She stared out the viewport, where the stars drifted like ancient watchers. Then we show them what silence has built. Her voice was quiet, not cruel, not angry, just ready. The galaxy stood on a line too thin to see. Words were no longer enough, and yet no one dared to be the first to break the silence. Fear held them still. Mira knew that was more powerful than any fleet. Captain Mira Chen stood alone on the upper deck of the HSS Revenant, staring into the stars. The bridge lights behind her glowed dim, casting long shadows over the smooth metal floor. The stars ahead stretched endlessly, points of light scattered across the cold black sea of space. But Mira didn't look at them for beauty. She looked at them with purpose. The Galactic Council was quiet now. Too quiet. The streams of intercepted communications had slowed, but Oracle still picked up the patterns beneath the silence. Fleet movements, encrypted messages, silent construction orders. The galaxy wasn't calm. It was holding its breath. Status report, she said. Oracle's voice, calm and steady, responded. Drax Dominion has moved 2 fleets to the outer zones. No direct action taken. Council diplomacy channels remain open but inactive. Several minor species have pulled their ships back from trade routes. Mira nodded slowly. They're scared to make the first move. They are hoping we will, Oracle replied. In her quarters, Mira opened the old files again. Records from Earth's last great war. She read the casualty numbers, the broken cities, the empty lands that had taken decades to heal, and then she read the recovery reports. Earth hadn't rebuilt itself with rage. It had rebuilt with discipline, with silence, with time. After the wars ended, Earth turned inward, governments united, nations became teams, not enemies. Together, they built what the rest of the galaxy thought impossible. They didn't broadcast their return. They didn't ask for recognition. They prepared. Now all it had taken was one glimpse, one cloaked ship, one carefully placed message, and the galaxy remembered the name they had almost forgotten. Humanity. Mira closed the file and stood. She walked through the corridors of the Revenant, past her quiet, focused crew. Every officer knew what they represented. Not just power, not just defense. They were a mirror held up to the galaxy's face, a reminder that Earth had survived, and it had learned. Lieutenant Rafe met her near the command terminal. Orders, Captain. She looked at him with calm certainty. We leave. Pull back into the void line. Let them talk. Let them guess. We've shown enough, and if they come after us. Mira gave a small nod. Then we finish what they're afraid to start. The Revenant turned slowly, its engines whispering across the dark. No alarms, no grand speeches, just silence, as it slipped back beyond the edge of known space. In the council chambers across the stars, leaders received one final ping, a signal from deep space, untraceable, unmarked. It read, "We are watching, choose wisely." High Consul Vorek stood before the message. His jaw was tight, his eyes hard, but he said nothing. He didn't give an order, he didn't send a reply. He simply turned away, knowing this time, they were not the hunters. They were being watched, and somewhere out in the darkness, unseen and silent, Earth waited. Captain Mira Chen sat in her command chair as the Revenant passed into the void, stars shrinking behind her. She closed her eyes for a moment. "We didn't fire a shot," she whispered. And yet they had won the first move. She opened her eyes and spoke just loud enough for her crew to hear. "Let them wonder." The stars welcomed them once again, and the Revenant disappeared into the silence it had come from.